When people go missing, the majority of the time they turn up or are found well. However, there are cases of missing people who seem to have vanished without a trace. Despite the best efforts of search teams and loved ones, their disappearances remain unsolved and unexplained. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at mysterious disappearances. "69-year-old Harry Burley found in the woods." The Oregon wilderness is a stunning but dangerous thing. Anything could happen in the woods, and nature and its fauna can be unpredictable. It is why news of survivors who were trapped in the wilderness for prolonged periods of time is extraordinary and shocking to hear about, and the case here is no different. Of all the things to expect in May, snow is generally not one of them, but that is what greeted Burley the following morning. Over the course of the following 16 days, Burley desperately focused solely on his survival. He figured out a way to make fire with the use of a magnifying glass and kept thirst at bay by drinking dew from leaves and trees. There was little food for him to consume in the freezing cold of the woods, so Burley turned to insects as a main source of energy. When interviewed about his remarkable survival, Burley stated, "I wanted one more day. I wanted to get home to see my wife and so many others. I just wanted one more day. I left that mountaintop with something I did not have before. My body was beat beyond what I thought it could give. My mind was stretched beyond what I thought I could do. But my life spark, that loving energy that we have within us, was filled." His wife reported him as missing on the 7th of May when he failed to return from his fishing camping trip, afraid something bad had happened to her husband. The Douglas County Police and Jackson County authorities gathered a search and rescue party to try and find Burley. The search was tedious and strenuous, but worth the trouble to save his life. The search continued for the entire 2 weeks, during which his car was found abandoned at the lower trailhead of the Forest Service Trail a day after he was officially declared missing. With each day that passed, more and more rescuers began to lose faith in recovering the elderly man alive. The bitter cold and odds of anyone surviving decreased drastically every night that went by. Still, they did not give up and continued their search, finding a trace of him at last on the 16th of May when they found his temporary shelter. Burley himself was not there, but the shelter and tackle box he left by the Calf Creek instilled fresh hope in the search team, who proceeded to look around the area for him. It took another week before he was found, but those involved left a cardboard sign for him to find should he return to the shelter, telling him to stay put and not go anywhere. They also supplied a food cache for him. Search and rescue found him before he succumbed to the elements, and he had to spend an additional 15 days in a hospital in order to recover from his injuries and the severe hypothermia and dehydration he suffered during those 17 days of desperate survival. Additionally, to the physical damage his body took, Burley lost a whole 30 pounds according to a statement released by the sheriff's office. Burley was in a stable condition when he was found, being able to walk around with only minor injuries and aches, but the dehydration and hypothermia were the more concerning factors when it came to his health. Sergeant Brad Odell stated about the matter in an official press release. "This was the outcome we all have been looking for in this case. It is because of our determined search and rescue teams and the partnerships we have with other SAR teams from around the state that Mr. Burley has been reunited with his family this evening. The Sheriff's Office wants to thank everyone who was involved in this mission." And yet, despite this, Harry Burley's love for nature and hiking has not been deterred, as he claims he cannot wait to get back to the woods. Man taking a bathroom break in the woods finds human remains. One thing you do not expect to find on an average day is human remains. Unfortunately for one man, in Utahville, South Carolina, on the 9th of April, is exactly what he found. The man in question was simply driving down a dirt road when he was on his lunch break from work, a day as any other, and yet, when he left his car on the side of the road in order to relieve himself halfway on his journey home, he made a horrific discovery. Orangeburg County deputies stated that the man went into the woods, where he soon found human remains and immediately called the police to alert them of his shocking finding, after he returned to his site of work, where he was working with his brother. Deputy Coroner Sean Fogel was the assigned deputy to head out and investigate, and so he went to identify the remains after being given the whereabouts by the man who found the remains. A forensic anthropologist is said to be currently studying the human remains, but not much has yet been released about the specifics of whose remains they are or what happened to them. It is terrifying to consider how easily a normal day can go awry by no fault of our own. How walking your dogs can become a rescue mission to save a drowning dog, or how the mundane act of stopping on the side of the road to relieve oneself in the woods can lead to a prospective murder investigation. Nature is a beautiful but dark place, and life can throw the most horrifying of curveballs. Roald Amundsen. Roald Amundsen was a polar explorer during the heroic age of Antarctic exploration. He played a crucial role in the exploration of polar zones and was extremely successful until his disappearance. He was born into a family of shipowners, to Jens Amundsen and Hanna Svalquist. The family was sizable, with him being their fourth son. At 15, he read Sir John Franklin's narrative of polar expeditions, which shaped his entire future. Hannah, his mother, encouraged him to pursue the stable vocation of doctorhood, hoping that he would not follow the family tradition of becoming a sailor or trader at sea. For her sake, Roald agreed and attended university for a short amount of time until his mother passed away. Immediately, he dropped out of his studies to begin a new, exciting life on the waves, joining the Belgian Antarctic expedition as first mate. Adrien de Galasha led this expedition on the RV Belgica. The journey ended terribly as the Belgica got stuck in ice glaciers off the coast of Alexander Island, west of the Antarctic. The crew were subsequently unprepared for the winter which followed. Due to his medical knowledge, Roald Amundsen estimated that the American named Frederick Cook had likely saved them all from scurvy by hunting for animals and giving the crew the meat. When one cannot obtain citrus fruits, fresh meat from animals who produce their own vitamin C usually has just enough of it to prevent the horrid disease. This was a realization he would carry with him for the rest of his career. In 1903, Amundsen led the first expedition to traverse Canada's Northwest Passage. He took 6 men with him in a vessel named Jua, which had a small and shallow draft. The ship had a small 13-horsepower paraffin engine. The crew spent 2 winters at King William Island, where Amundsen learned about Arctic survival from the local Netsilik Inuit population. Alongside this, he learned how to sledge dogs and use animal skins for warmth. The Jua cleared the Canadian Arctic archipelago on the 17th of August 1905, having to make a stop for the winter before journeying on to the Pacific coast. The nearest telegraph station was 800 kilometers away. Amundsen succeeded in wiring a message in December and went on to Nome in 1906. He was initiated into the American Antiquarian Society. During this time, he learnt he had a new king, Haakon VII, after the dissolution of Norway and Sweden's union. He sent him news of his successes and proclaimed his achievement of traversing the Northwest Passage to be a great achievement for Norway. The crew returned to Oslo in 1906 after almost 4 years. In 1909, Amundsen craved more adventure, alerting his crew that they would be heading to Antarctica, planning on exploring the Arctic basin. Though he found it extremely difficult to raise the necessary funds, regardless, he set out for the south in 1910. Amundsen and his men reached the Great Ice Barrier and set up camp called Framheim. For a while, they fared well in the freezing temperatures, with Amundsen using past experiences and Inuit knowledge to their advantage. They set out to reach the direct South Pole in October and achieved claiming the icy pole, naming their southern base Polheim and renaming the Antarctic plateau King Haakon VII's Plateau, and managed to safely return back to Framheim. His planning and skillful tactics were crucial in their accomplishment. In 1918, he set out on another expedition in a new ship, Maud, which lasted until 1925. He wished to explore the smaller, undiscovered areas of the Arctic Ocean. Amundsen wanted to freeze the moored into the ice caps, and this indeed happened, but too well, and they became heavily trapped. This occurred multiple times, and they spent 2 winters frozen in ice. Amundsen broke his arm during this time and was attacked by polar bears, and was of little assistance to his own men when hunting or slaying. The crew returned to Nome to fix the ship, but Amundsen's men abandoned him, furious that they had not achieved what they set out to do. Sometime afterwards, he ended up adopting 2 indigenous girls, 4-year-old Kakunita and Camilla, but 2 years later he lost all his finances, sending the girls to stay with Camilla's father in eastern Russia. In 1923, he attempted to fly over the pole. Amundsen's aircraft was damaged and the journey had to be abandoned. In 1925, he accompanied Lincoln Ellsworth, taking a flying boat to go over to the north, but like the previous aircraft, got too damaged to complete the travel. In 1926, Amundsen and 15 other men managed to cross the Arctic in their airship. After an extraordinary career and successful life, Roald Amundsen mysteriously disappeared on the 18th of June 1928 whilst flying over the Arctic on a rescue mission. Amundsen's flying boat never returned, and he was never seen again, yet his legacy eternally remains. The disappearance of Angela Freeman. "Mama, I love you, I'll see you Friday." Those were the last words that Deborah Freeman ever heard from her daughter. Soon after, the 17-year-old named Angela Freeman told her mother that she was going to spend Thursday night with her friend. However, 2 days later, the 1984 Honda Accord car that she had just handed her mother a cash payment for was found abandoned near a bridge in Missouri. Angela was nowhere to be found. To make matters even worse, she was 4 months pregnant at the time. In the beginning, authorities simply shrugged it off as a missing persons case. Even though mobile phones did not exist back then, missing teenagers were bound to show up within a day or two. Yet, that was not the case for Angela. Instead of finding her daughter safe and sound, Deborah found blood on the car instead. In fear, they instantly notified the police. It turns out that what was dismissed as merely transmission fluid. After this, blood was confirmed to be found next to her car. After numerous diver and cadaver dog searches around the area, all that was discovered were her shoes found in 2 separate areas. Suddenly, this case transformed from a disappearance to a homicide. No one could sit around and wait for her to show any longer. The detectives revealed that Angela was last seen outside of an old Pizza Hut at around 1 a.m. on a Friday. Her whereabouts after she'd left couldn't be traced. They suspected that a man who was seen washing his car and hunting near the bridge area was involved, but they did not have enough evidence to confirm anything. No matter how desperate everyone was to find Angela, it seemed that all hope was lost. It has been decades since she said goodbye to her mother on that fateful day of September 8, 1993. Even though Angela herself was so excited to be a mother, she would never be able to realize that dream. However, people like Police Captain Rusty Keys have still not given up. In due time, Angela Freeman's disappearance might no longer stay a mystery. Mary A Curie found buried in her backyard. When 36-year-old Mary A Curie bought a house with her husband Albert in 1960, she did not know it would also become her final resting place. She had 2 children and happily married when she moved into the house on 5445 Black Street in East Liberty, Pennsylvania. Or so everyone thought. Albert A Curie was described by neighbors as a sweet, funny, laid-back gentleman. He and Mary and their 2 teenage children lived in that house on Black Street for 4 short years before Mary went missing. Albert told their children that their mother had packed her things and left them, presumably for another man. This was also the story that friends and family friends were told about Mary's disappearance, though no one believed that Mary was the type of person to abandon her kids seemingly overnight, without showing any signs that she was about to do so. With Mary gone, they had little else to go on. Teresa Rocco, head of the Police Bureau's Missing Persons Unit, as well as the godmother to one of Mary's children, knew there had to be more to the case. She waited for Albert to file a police report. He would never file a missing persons report, though. Mary's sister and mother did try to file, but according to their accounts, they were not taken seriously. This is disputed by the Pittsburgh police, who claim they never received a missing persons report in this case and that Mary was assumed to have left of her own free will. The following year, Albert A Curie passed away in a motor vehicle accident. It was later presumed that he was travelling at such a high rate of speed that he was intentionally taking his own life. For some, this solidified their suspicions of foul play in the Mary A Curie disappearance. There were other signs noted from the family that cast more doubt onto Albert's story, though. Before taking his own life and shortly after Mary went missing, Albert claimed that a large freezer had been stolen out of their garage in broad daylight. A family member reflected that it was the perfect size to store Mary's body to prevent it from decomposing. Shortly after that, Albert installed a cement slab in their backyard as a kind of patio. Mary's great-nephew, Charles Spurner, was only 5 years old when Mary disappeared, but he remembers vividly that his mother thought that Albert had hurt Mary and put her under the cement patio. That was where Mary was found during a construction site dig in 2018. Of course, her remains were in such an advanced state of decomposition that no determination was made as to how she passed away. The medical examiner's office ruled her manner of loss of life as undetermined. Since he passed away in 1965, Albert has been suspected of taking the life of his late wife. He cannot be charged with the evidence available now, and so far the case remains open. But what do you make of these mysteries and disappearances? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.